we go. So I don't know if I'm supposed to look at the Zoom or the Facebook. Okay, so it should be starting to load on Facebook right now.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Do you see us? I don't see us on here, but.
Zoom or the Facebook?
Oh, I'm talking. Hello.
Okay, I shut it off, so we aren't hearing our echo.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. We are starting this live in a little bit. We're just getting started here. Just gonna wait for some people to join. Colleen, are you on mute?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, now I can hear you. Okay.
Okay. No, I was just sitting silently while we were figuring it all out.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess we'll get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Tylena Goyo. I am the director of We Are the Seeds, and today we're having a great conversation. I'm here with Shelby Harper, who is the director of Cahkeydonee Literary Project, and Colleen Farwell, who is the author and publisher of I Will Carry You. And we're just gonna have a conversation about Colleen's amazing book and this partnership that we have with Cahkeydonee. So, hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi. So Colleen, can you just tell us a little bit about your book and where you are now with it? Because it was released last year. It's been a strange year.
It has been the strangest year for all things. So the book, first of all, the book is, look at these illustrations. Are they gorgeous? And a big shout out to Eleanor Gorsh for illustrating for us and doing just such a beautiful job. And then, you know, the book became a collaboration with other artists. So Summer Peters has done the blanket here. Akhenav has done the dress design. So throughout you see representation of 6 other Native artists, which is really, really terrific. And we've been selling books like crazy. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have teamed up with Shelby. So for the for Native American Heritage Month, the month of October, for every book sold, we're giving one to Shelby's organization, and they are doing outreach to Native youth across the country to get Native authors into the hands of Native children. And I think that is so beautiful. When I was a little girl, I grew up in the most remote area of my reservation imaginable. So if you Google my location, we were right in between Lodgegrass, Montana, which is the Crow Reservation, and then Busby, which is the Cheyenne Reservation. So you would go through the Wolf Mountains. So if you Google like getting to Busby from Lodgegrass, like they take you to Crow and then you go down the highway. But no, we were like right in between on this little dirt road that was in the middle of nowhere, and weather permitting. So if we were lucky, it was 5 times a year. The bookmobile used to come out to us, and it was my favorite thing. My favorite thing. Like I could not wait for the bookmobile to come, and it would come, and it was like, it seemed so big to me because I was little. And it would pull up outside the school, and we could only go in 2s because I guess it was little, but to me it was like so big, and there were all of these books, and to have access to that as a child, and someone who I love to read and I love stories, and it was magical. And Shelby, that I've teamed up with you and you're giving that magic back, it means so much to me. And I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing, and I want to hear all about what you're doing because we haven't talked before.
Yeah.
I know, we're just meeting.
I hope you're so ready to share, like, you know, what brought you to where you are and what you're doing and how you go about it and how you bring magic to that little girl inside of me. It's just like so uplifting.
Oh, wow. I love hearing your story. I was just telling Tylen before we got started, like how much I love your book. And it's, I mean, it's the gorgeous illustrations and then the story. I'm a parent, I'm a mother, and it really, for me, captures that the love that a mother carries for her children, and the um, the piece about children growing up, right, and moving on and doing what they're meant to do in the world. So you did that um, in a children's book. So having kids and having read hundreds of books to my kids, I'm always happy when I find a really well done children's book. um, so I thank you for making that and putting that out there. So I too grew up with books. I grew up in Oklahoma, and my family is Caddo, and I grew up in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and going to the public library was one of the highlights of my childhood too. Shout out to the Muskogee Public Library. And I remember going there all the time, weekly, with my grandmother and my mom. And I come from a family of readers, and it's just, books have always been important to me. And my cousin was working on a reservation a number of years ago. And when I visited him, I realized how remote it was, and there was no public library for hours. And it really struck me that something that I grew up enjoying, I grew up in a small town, but it had a thriving public library. And I just wanted every kid to be able to have access to books, because I believe in the power of stories and storytelling and the magic of books to transport you, to help people see, to expand what's possible. This something I've wanted to do for a long time, and it just finally became the right time to launch it. And so we're super excited for you. We're so excited for how many books people have bought. Just so grateful that people have been buying this book, and for every book purchased, a copy. And thank you for your generosity, for your publishing company, for donating a copy to the Cahkeydonee Literary Project. And so I'm just can't wait to get these books out there.
So exciting. Thank you.
It is so exciting. And so if anybody watching wants more information on Cahkeydonee, it's nativekidsread.com, and Colleen's book is at iwillcarryouchildrensbook.com. So we launched this in the beginning of November, and now I didn't do a count as of tonight, but this morning we're at like 88 books sold. So it's so exciting. In the next 2 weeks, our goal is 100, but I think we're going to surpass that. And it'll be really wonderful to be able to see where these books wind up, and just we're just excited to hear the stories and see how the children are enjoying the books. Colleen, do you want to read the book?
Sure, absolutely. I don't know. Hold on. Let me just.
Because I what I love is that we all have our own interpretation of how we read it to our children. But
Right.
Colleen has her, and it's so special to hear it the way you do it. It doesn't change the way we do it, but it also has an extra, because
I'm gonna try to turn the pages. So I know it'll throw me off a little, but I just the illustrations, Eleanor did such an amazing job with the illustrations. So I really want to share for the people who haven't had a chance to see the book yet. So, okay, I Will Carry You, written by me, written by Eleanor Grosch. I Will Carry You. And the first stanza of the book, for those that aren't familiar, is the little one talking to mom. And then after that, it's mom talking to her little one. So here we go. Mommy, will you carry me when we go out to play and tell me just one story as we walk along the way? Little one, I will carry you so gently on my hip. I will hold you a little tighter should you begin to slip. So put your head against my shoulder. Hear these words I say. This is the story of how I will carry you on this and every day. Before you were born, I carried you. Deep inside you came to be. Your arms, your legs, your heart, your eyes that would soon see. When you came into this world, I carried you in my arms. You were much too small for walking, and I kept you safe from harm. As a little baby, you grew so very fast. I carried you upon my shoulders just to hear you laugh. Today, you're getting bigger. I carry you on my hip. I hold you a little tighter when you begin to slip. Soon you will be older. I'll carry your hand in mine. I'll walk you to the bus. I'll stand with you in line. And when you're even older and think that I don't understand, then I will carry you against my shoulder. I'll be your biggest fan. And someday, when you're all grown up and you can't stay to play, then I will carry you inside my heart, even when you're far away. And then our dedication page to our artists.
It makes me
You
tear
know,
up.
This is a children's book, but secretly, I just think I wrote it to every mom in the world.
Yeah, it's so
Right?
beautiful. It's so beautiful. And Shelby's a writer. And
Yes.
Yeah,
Think about
I'm
that.
a fiction writer.
so let's talk about writing.
Yes.
I would love to hear what your process was in from start to finish with this book.
You know, it's so funny because there were a lot of things happening in my life and my kids, and you know, you just think you have these children and you're like, they're just going to grow up. And they were little. I had Cody and Tanner and Jake on the way, and this is just such a funny story. And I don't know how much of it came out of this moment, but I was walking one day with them, and I was in Hanover, New Hampshire, and you know, I bumped into this woman. And you know, it's hard when you're from a reservation, you grew up there, and you get sort of displaced, and you don't make. It was always hard for me to make connections. So I didn't really know her. She was my neighbor, but we never talked, and I didn't even really know. We all had long driveways, so I bump into her, and you know, she comments on the kids, and she said, you know, when my kids are all grown now, but you know, when they were little, I used to just wish like I could put them in the freezer, and then just like kind of take them out when I wanted to deal with it. And I was like, you know, I left, and I'm walking home with my kids, and I was kind of like, you know, I've never felt that way about my kids. Like, I've never wanted to put my kids in the freezer. And then, you know, I just started thinking about my kids and how like I felt about them, and how I thought about them. And, you know, being a poet anyway, I've always been drawn to poetry, and I've always written poetry. And so I think it was just kind of all, you know, brewing in there. And then I applied for a job and misunderstood the whole application process. It was working for kids, and they wanted a writing sample. So then I was like, I thought I had to give them a writing sample for kids. It was at the library. So I write this poem, and I called my great friend Daryl Begay, and we always shared our writing in college. I was like, okay, so I'm applying for this job, and this is what they want, and I wrote this, and tell me what you think. So I read it to him, and he was like, girl, it's beautiful, but they want to know you can write for grants. So then I just had this like poem. And then all these years later, Tylen and I were college roommates. We hadn't seen each other in forever. And we meet up in Santa Fe, and I'm telling her about it. And she's asking me about it. So I recite it to her at dinner, and that was it. She was like, it has to be in the world. You're not going to, it's not going to stay in your drawer anymore. It's coming out. And then we just started this beautiful collaboration that just became more and more beautiful. Like with each step of the way and each new idea, and it's just, and it was Tylen's idea to like bring in the other artists. And I was just like, that's so beautiful, because I think, we kind of have this thing as Native people about, misappropriation, whatever that is, whatever that means. But, it was just beautiful to have like artists from all over, like Chin is Narragansett. And, so we just had like all of this different representation within the book. And I'm like, there's going to be so many kids that are going to open up this book and see like a little bit of themselves. And I just thought that was so beautiful and so perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
And I can't wait to see all the pictures of the kids. I hope they send you pictures when they go out. As it goes out in my life, people send me pictures. And I'm just so moved every time. It's like so beautiful. You see these beautiful little children reading your book, and it just warms your heart. Mm-hmm. It really does. It's like,
as a writer, I know I always joke and say that, whenever someone, anyone besides like my mom is reading what I've written, I just feel like it's a success. It's just, I mean, just like, because she has to, she's my mom. But like, if I love it when people say, oh, I read your story, or, I saw this piece here and I watched it, or I read it. And it's, there's nothing more fulfilling, I think, for me as a writer, than knowing that somebody took the time to, read what I wrote and it moved them in some way. It's the best.
Exactly. And there's something very universal. When you connect with words, we connect on our own level, but there's something very universal going on. And that's really, really beautiful. And, we bring in different perspectives. And I just love it. I mean, I have learned things about my work through other people, and I find that really amazing. And I have gifted that as well. So I love that, how sometimes you interpret something and maybe that's not even what you meant, but all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's even more beautiful, right? Like, I love your interpretation of me, because it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that connection in writing, for sure.
Going back to something you said, Colleen, about Native kids reading the book and seeing pieces of them, of who they are, because this book is, like you said, it's really universal. It's a story for every caretaker and every child. But a Native child might go through this book and say, oh, I have a doll like that, or I have a blanket like that. And it reminded me of something funny. Ricardo Cate, the cartoonist, he had a cartoon where a young kid was at the museum and there was like pottery and a rug on the wall. And he's like, why did we have to come here? I have all this stuff at home. And when you were saying that, it reminded me of that. But, so I love about this book is that it's a universal story. It speaks to everybody, but it also represents us. And that is so rare. And it's a Native story, and you're not saying this is a Native mom. You're not saying moms, it's not hitting everybody over the head with this, with words or imagery or anything. It's just who you are. It's a reflection of you and your life and the things you have in your home and that we have in our home. And so that's what I love about it, the subtlety. And your primary mission is telling a beautiful story and having beautiful illustrations and working with amazing artists, and that's it. And it just happens to represent you.
And it's so funny that you say that, because I wonder how many people read this book and don't even see the representation, right? And what's so interesting to me about that is, through the process, those things were so important to me getting them right was so important to me. And yet we have a book that I think a lot of people would pick up and not even realize. You know,
Right.
they don't realize they're looking at beaded sneakers. They're not realize they're looking at a lacrosse stick, and lacrosse is a Mohawk game.
Yes.
This is a Native American game, and it was a ceremony and a celebration. And so all of these things, but Native kids know when they see, when they see that part of themselves, they know.
And it makes you feel, when you see something, even as an adult, when you see a movie or a show or something and you're representing, you just get this kind of like, because you're not used to it. I mean, I think kids see more brown and black people now than we did growing up, but still. And today, We Are the Seeds, we did a performance over Zoom for an 8th grade class here in Philadelphia. And I showed them the book and I said, yeah. And so it represents, and then I was showing them the page with the lacrosse, and I said, lacrosse is a Native game. And I saw the teacher look like she didn't know. And then she started writing it down. And I was like, well, that's amazing, because one way or another, whether it's conscious or subconscious, they're gonna see us. This is what we're doing, right? Through We Are the Seeds, through Shelby's work, through your work. It's not what they're expecting necessarily. It's not what they think Native people are, who we are. It's not the stereotype, but if we do enough of this, we talk about it enough, they're going to see us for who we are. And that's what I love about it.
And that's what I love that we're giving to kids, that
Yes.
we're giving them that. And it just fills me with joy. And there's something about it, I don't know why, but it makes me feel smart. I don't know how to say that correctly, but I'm going through the process, and I'm very there were a lot of decisions that were big for me. Crow dolls usually don't have a face, but when my mom used to create them when I was little, depending on the market, they would have a face. So I was like, I think I want the doll in here to have it. So there was all of this, right? And then you just hand it to people, and it doesn't matter what culture they are, they read it and they think it's beautiful, and they don't even know about all of that, kind of those background decisions and all of the things that were so important to me. And yet here we are with all of this Native representation in the book, and it's just organic, right? It's just organic. And it's not, I guess I took so much time with it that now when I step back and see it and people don't even kind of realize that they're getting absorbed in it, I'm like, how did we manage that? That's just amazing. And then Native kids pick it up and they're like, there's lacrosse in here. She has her beaded sneakers, all of that kind of identification. And I just love it. And the doll with her elk tooth dress, it's just perfect. It's just perfect.
It really
I think
is.
that's the power of art, is to it allows people to enter it wherever they are and experience it, bringing their own background and cultural and interpretation. And I love that this book is so it's for Native people, but it's also for anyone who wants to read a good story to their kids, or grandkids, or the children who are in their life. I love that about art.
Yeah, I love what you said, Shelby. And I want to go back to something that you and I had talked about, not in this conversation, but before, about how your organization is working with tribal leaders to distribute the books. So you're not making that decision to say oh, this community needs books. You're actually making sure you're listening. And I want to talk about the power in that, because that really stood out to me, as because a lot of organizations think they know what's best, and they kind of go into communities and they're like, you need this, you need that, and that is just the wrong approach. And I know that you're specifically not doing that. So can you talk more about that?
Sure. So our mission is to put books in the hands of Native kids on reservations without good access to public libraries. But that will look different depending on each tribal community that we are engaged with, because tribal communities are different. And the number one, feeling we have is respect. And that's why, my advisory board will always be predominantly Native people. Every step of the way is Native. And with that, we bring that appreciation and respect and recognition that what may work, for a tribe in Washington State won't work, may or may not work with Alaska Native village,
Right.
and as well as like maybe not in the Southwest. And so it's going to be tailored for each community. And then with a special emphasis on books by Indigenous authors and authors of color. And then I always say, of course, like, the Harry Potters and the, not comic books. I'm spacing on the name of the, what my kids read, the
Graphic novels.
graphic novels. Yeah.
They
So
love
like the graph,
those, right.
love the, so like we'll have like the, all the books that teens and kids like to read, but like a special emphasis on Native authors and authors of color, because as we've talked about, representation matters, and people need to see, what's possible, and need to see themselves in books. So that's the number one focus.
It's so exciting. And I'm so excited that, I don't know, that the three of us are working together on this, because along the way, it's just, especially because of the whole quarantine thing and stuff, I feel like we've all been kind of isolated and doing our own thing, putting our heads down and doing our own thing. And it's just, it's been so joyful and so lifting to be able to work on something, first of all, with two fabulous women, moms, Native women, and then also who are doing amazing work, but also to like just come together and join forces and like push it out into the world. And I think you feel this too. Like I feel it every day. I feel, and someone wrote me the other day and said, "What are you doing? How can I help? What is it, a book? What am I supposed to be doing?" And I just was like, that is the nicest thing, because she kind of got a whiff of something that was going on. She didn't really know, right? She probably halfway saw a post or something. I don't know what happened there, but it was just like, she wanted to support us, right? And I just felt like, it just feels good to have that goodness coming this way. And Colleen and Shelby, you're putting that goodness out, and it's so necessary right now. And I think it's not just the three of us, but it's all of those 80 plus people and whoever else, that are becoming part of this circle.
Absolutely. I feel it too. And I feel the excitement and the interest, and I just love it. It's been frustrating to me how Native people can be left out of the conversation so many different places. And it does feel like there's a change. There's something this year where there's a remembering, there's an acknowledgement, it does feel like there's change. And I'm excited that people are so interested in this book and what we're doing and the momentum that's building. Just trying to keep up, with the momentum that's building. I love it.
What do you think, Colleen? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. And Shelby and I haven't talked, and I just love, your emphasis on listening to Native communities and their needs. My son, my oldest son, when the Dakota Access Pipeline, the protests were going on, he went out. He went to Standing Rock, and there was a lot going on. And as a mom, you have a lot of worry. And he would call me, and there are moments in my life when I've been really proud of really, really proud of my children, but also you feel like, you know what, I had to have done something right, you know? And he called me one day and he said, you know, um, every day at camp we meet, and he said, Mom, there are people that have come here and they're from other communities and they don't listen to the women from here. And I only listen to the women. So when people break off and think they're going to go do their own thing, like I tell them that's not how you do it, but I don't participate with them. And you know, to me, that moment was just so huge and so big for me as a parent. And I was like, you know what, Cody, you're just doing everything right, and you keep doing that, and you keep listening. And if they just need you to bring wood to the fire, then you bring the wood, and you don't do any more than what you're asked. And I was just so proud of him. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times people don't understand that. And even as Native people, we think we can go into another community and kind of tell them like, oh, I figured something out. But we really should always be listening. You know, we should always be listening to that community and then saying, okay, how can I help you? And then you can tell me. And I love, like, I didn't know, Thailand, that somebody had said, okay, there's this book. What can I do? Like, what can I do? And that is just beautiful when you're kind of working on something, and especially like this project to get, you know, books into the hands of Native children, like, and somebody just says, what can I do? You know, that is just a beautiful, and it's so empowering to everyone involved when you can, you know, come into a community and really listen to their needs and then do the things that they, you know, especially if you think you're coming to help, do what that community asks of you. It's just beautiful. And I just love that. That just like lifts my heart. It really does. I love it. And here we look at us. Here we are making some great
Here we
pieces, some
are.
great, like, doing some good work. And that makes me feel really good.
Yeah, yeah, and getting the opportunity to talk, and that's what I really appreciate too. Even though we're doing it on live, but also it still, this exchange with us will create, you know, will give us inspiration, and maybe an hour or two from now we'll be like, oh yeah, this is, we need to try that, or what's next, or you know. So I love that it's giving us a chance to engage and talk. But can we talk about the next couple of weeks and how we want to get the word out to everybody? So if you're watching, definitely share, get on iwillcarryyouchildrensbook.com and nativekidsread.com and check it out, because we want to hit that 100 book mark. Yeah. And it's such a great gift, right, Colleen? Because a lot of people have been saying that they've been getting it for baby showers.
Like that, you know, yeah, that's one thing too I wanted to say that I didn't say. Like that is the beautiful thing about the book is it really transcends time. The first time I read it, I was at Seeds in Santa Fe, and I stepped off the stage, and one of the women there came up to me and she was crying. And she said, you know, my daughter called me today, and she's getting a divorce. And, you know, we had a really heartfelt conversation and there were a lot of tears. And she said, you know, hearing your book, I need to give this to her. And, you know, I'm never going to put her down. She's a grown woman. She has children. And you never put your children down. And it was like, and then we were both standing there crying, right? Because I was like, that's so beautiful. And it's just so true. And I think that's the beauty of the book is it really just transcends time. It doesn't matter if your baby's brand new born, or if they're 2, or if they're 5, or if they're 50.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, it's timeless. And I love that about it. And it's as much for mom as it is for baby, really.
It's true. I was reading it to Micah yesterday, and Quay, my 16-year-old, came and sat down next to us, and he was really into it. And then I said, I'm packing this for you when you go to college. You're taking it with you. And he was like, okay. He was fine. You know, he wasn't like, Mom. He was like, all right. You know, Quay, he's like 6'3". He's like, okay. So sweet. So very sweet. Colleen, can you talk a little bit about the fashion show and all the other things that the artists are doing as a result of the book?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. So you'll have to help me if I don't hit it all. We did the fashion show at Seeds. It was absolutely phenomenal. They took the book and then they just took the parts of it that they drew inspiration from, and then they made mom child garments, just absolutely stunning. It was just beautiful. And how many designers were there in total? Do you remember, Thailand?
I think there were about 8. So at the Nav, Lauren Aragon made
Yes.
fabric out of the designs in the book. So like this is Lauren's design, and then there was this one was a fabric, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the designs in the book were made into fabric, and then the designers were given the fabric to create whatever they thought, whatever they were inspired by, whatever pages they were inspired by. So yeah, these colors and designs.
And it was so beautiful. I wish we had pictures right now of all of it. It was just
it was so
stunning.
beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And they had like even they would have the mom dress and then the baby wrap for the little babies. And the one mom was carrying her baby in the wrap, and baby fell asleep during the fashion show. It was so beautiful.
So it was like the book come to life.
It was absolutely just gorgeous. And then, Chin's designs and jewelry are just amazing. They're just phenomenal. And, mom has them kind of throughout the book. So hopefully when we start, getting out of COVID and being able to do a little more like merchandising and stuff, we'll be able to have links to his stuff directly for beautiful mom gifts.
Right. Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Shelby, before we wrap up, I would love to talk more about your writing and what you have coming up.
Okay, sure. So I have a fun short story coming out next year in an anthology, and this one, it's a way that I think it will. I think it's going to do many things. So it was a fun experimental story. It's where I played with magical realism. It was written as I call it a revenge story for my friend who got ghosted by this guy. So so she gets ghosted, and then she is taking out her fury by making a sculpture, and then the sculpture comes to life and kidnaps the guy and brings him into her kitchen and squeezes him and flops him around. But the character is native, but it doesn't like beat someone over the head with like, this is a native and they're going on a journey. It's like it's a native person just living in Washington DC, dating, like online dating, and taking revenge on a guy who doesn't treat her right. And so it's like I love the opportunity to remind people that Native people are still here and living normal lives, and also remind people that they're urban Indians, and just to do something, just have a fun story. I've certainly written some, I hesitate to say darker stories because there's some dark elements to that one too. But, I wrote a story about, I guess I keep coming back to artists, but a painter who in the 1960s was given an involuntary hysterectomy, right? So like it was a practice that the federal government did to Native women in the 60s, 70s. And so this woman experienced that and is painting murals to live out her grief in a home. And so I've certainly done like darker pieces before. My first love are novels. And so I have a long running project, and that one, the current title is Real Indian, and it's about identity. It's about a woman who lives in Seattle and is summoned home to Oklahoma to find her missing father. And as she's physically searching for him, it's also a search for her own identity as a Native woman. And it's told through her perspective, as well as this draft memoir that he had been keeping. And so you get um, the father perspective and the daughter's perspective. And so I'm excited about that. And I hope to finish it soon.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So it's just, I have my big project, the novel, and then playing around with shorter pieces that, when an idea comes, just figuring out, like, what is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be flash fiction, a story, under 1,000 words, or is it supposed to be a more substantial short story? Or is it like, does this have legs to go 200 to 300 pages? So, but I think I'll always be writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask Colleen a question about always be writing too. But before I do that, anybody watching, if you want to ask any questions, you can just put them in the chat, and we'll ask Colleen and Shelby your questions for you. Colleen, same thing. Do you feel like you'll always be writing? I mean, for Seeds, we did this project early in March where you wrote a piece a week, and that was pretty cool.
That was really
I mean, it was really cool, actually. It was gorgeous.
I was so thrilled I kind of got tossed into it, and I was like excited, but also very nervous. And then we had to do, was it one a week? We did one a week,
one a
right?
week for 4 weeks.
And I did not have just taken the time to write in a long time. I have 6 kids. Life gets like, I do have
6 kids. Wow.
So life, kind of, and to sit down and do that was just beautiful, and it was amazing. And, it brought so much to life in me that I've kind of like, I used to just love to write. And in college, I took a lot of writing courses, and I just loved it, and I enjoyed it. And I started a series of short stories. And it's funny now that when you're older, how, the stories kind of evolve. And I've been meaning to kind of put it together and put it out there, but the writing that we did for Seeds just kind of started a fire again. And yes, I will always write. And I don't know. I just had been away from it for a while. So I thought, I put this down too long, I'm not going to be able to come up with anything. And, 3 of the pieces, I really just feel really good about and very confident in them. And it was just such a beautiful exercise. I was so happy to be a part of that. And yes, I will always write. We'd love to have like a little camp in the woods someday. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I'm going to go to my little camp in the woods, and I'm just going to write.
That sounds lovely. It sounds amazing.
How do you find the time?
I want one too.
Tell me how you find the time, because it sounds like you're doing a lot of writing. So share a little bit.
I want to do more. It just, sometimes what's helpful is signing up for like a writing class, and then it's just on the calendar. And the fun story that I wrote this year, I took a class through, the Washington, D.C. area, we have this amazing place called the Writer Center, and they have all kinds of online classes. And so I just took a class, and I think I wrote 5 short stories, and one of them then, I submitted, and it got accepted. And who knows if I'll return to the other ones, or just, or not. But it's having that on the calendar, like, and then knowing, just a deadline. I guess I just have to put some sort of pressure on myself. Like, okay, I'm giving my classmates something to workshop by Monday night. So but yeah, I mean, that's always the struggle, is like, how do you, like, as a mom, as a woman, like, how do you make sure you put give yourself that space.
Yes. It's not always easy. So I have a question for you, if you don't mind me asking. Of your writing, what is your favorite piece, and is it findable? Could I go somewhere and find it and read it?
Yes, you could. So I have almost everything that I've published on my website,
You do?
shelbysettlesharper.com. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, fabulous. And what's your favorite piece? Or do you
and
have?
my favorite piece, I think it's,
And I know they change, but so even if you tell us like today,
you're
like
asking me to pick a favorite child.
right, it's so true. You're right, I am. I'm sorry. Um,
No,
it,
I would say it's my novel, even though
yeah,
it's in progress, and that piece has grown with me. It started off as me processing my own father's like sudden death, and it grew into something much different. And it's almost, when people say they have a kid young, they say, oh, my child and I grew up together. And I was an older mom, so I didn't grow up in that way but like I feel like this novel and I have grown up together, so
beautiful.
it's my favorite.
And it's your first baby.
It's my first, but it's kind of like my first and my 50th because it's gone through so many rewrites.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't wait for it. Do you think, when you say soon, do you think like the next 2 years? Do you think soon?
Yes, 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 yes,
That's
yes.
fabulous. That is
Yeah.
fabulous. And how are you going to shop it out? Are you going to publish it
Yes.
yourself? What are you
Yes.
going to do?
Yes. Okay. I'm about to admit something. I went to a writing conference where you get to pitch to agents, and I got to pitch to 3 agents, and all 3 asked to see the full thing, and I have not sent them the full manuscript yet. So, but I hear that people, like new writers, do that all the time, but I realize you only get one, you get that one shot at like their first view. So
Right.
I do have to polish it before it can go. But I was relieved to hear someone tell me that like writers do that all the time. So
That's fabulous. Okay,
yeah,
good. So you're like, okay, so I have a little time to work through it and
yeah, yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
That's
Thank
so
you.
exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get that. You want to just keep it and just make sure it's right and perfect before you send it out into the world.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's really exciting. So much exciting stuff going on here. So we have about 5 more minutes. Are there any final thoughts that you have? I can tell you who's watching right now. TC Wu said, my parents are watching. Hi. They said and Keith is watching. Evelyn Gallego.
Oh, great.
Maria Corbin. Hi, Maria. I'm sorry I didn't say your name right. But Maria
Yeah,
says, I love the book. Definitely touched my heart.
she's the best. Hi, Maria.
So nice. Yeah, so many beautiful comments. This is really fun. So,
Well, I would like to say, if you're all thinking about buying it, this is the month, because then we give one to Shelby, and she gets it out there to Native kids who just wouldn't otherwise have access. And that's just really what it's all about, right? Like this project and this November has been like my favorite thing that we've done so far with the book.
me too.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
It just feels so rewarding. Like, just, I'm not kidding. I hadn't thought about the bookmobile in forever. And then, I was thinking about, our conversation. I was thinking about what you do. And then I was like, because it was my life, I didn't realize how remote I was. I didn't realize, like, here I am, a little kid, like, waiting. Is the bookmobile going to come this month? Like, is the weather going to hold out? I mean, we're up in the Wolf Mountains in Montana. Like, honestly, my dad had to put chains on the truck to get up there during the winter. So, you just didn't know if they were going to show up. And I'm like, I get to give back now. It's like, look what we're doing. Like, and the little kids would be like, yes, we're going to have fun. And it's just magic. It's
Yeah.
just magic when you're a kid
Mhm.
and you get that opportunity. So
Mhm.
I'm so happy. So
Me
if you're
too.
thinking about buying the book at all, this is the month to do it because it's just fabulous. We're matching every book sold. We're giving one to Native
Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you so much for that generosity. I mean, oh my gosh, thank you so much for donating a book for every book bought. That's incredible.
Well,
Yeah.
I also think it's a perfect month for that. You know, it's Native American Heritage Month, and also it's Thanksgiving time. And I think in the world right now, Thanksgiving's kind of taking a new form. And Colleen, you had talked about Thanksgiving the other day in this really wonderful way, because you can get really cynical about its origins, about the myth, and how it's been perpetuated in schools. But at the same time, it's a holiday where we come together and celebrate our families, and we have had our own, as a lot of Native tribes do have their own Thanksgivings and several Thanksgivings throughout the year. But I think now it's a great way to remind people, if you're celebrating Thanksgiving, at the same time, support a Native organization, support Native small business, find ways to give back for all that has been done in the past. And so it's an opportunity. So I like what we're doing because it's so, like you said, Colleen, and I would love you to talk about it real quick, but just like so much has happened to Native people, and by doing what we do and all the amazing change makers out there, so many brilliant Native people are out there doing things that we're creating this shift. And we don't want to be erased from Thanksgiving, but we're creating a shift to where we get to tell the story.
Right.
So can you talk about that a little? Because the way you said it was just so brilliant.
Well, the question's always floating around like, well, what do Native people do on Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
And then you feel like am I supposed to give, like, what kind of answer am I supposed to give?
Right.
We're eating and we're
Right.
like,
Turkey. You're having stuffing. I'm
watching
having
football.
stuffing. Yeah.
But I think there's just like American history has not been kind to Native American people, right? And everything from like the bloodthirsty savage, and here's this little bit of American history that has actually given acknowledgement to the kindness that Native people have always held, and our ability to give, and our ability to help people, and to make room for people. And that has always been like a celebration of us, like here we are and we're celebrating. um they're acknowledging the goodness in us, and so I'm going to take full advantage of that. And I am going to celebrate me in a way. We celebrate in our own way, and we have our own Thanksgivings and our own ceremonies, but that somewhere out there in this bigger culture, even though it may be more about them and trying to right their wrongs, it is a nod to who we are really as people, and our generosity, and our always ability to give. We were not capitalist societies. We always gave, and the warriors that gave the most to their community were the ones that were raised up, right? So it's a time for us to celebrate us, right? Like, we survived. I mean, that alone should be an enormous celebration. And not only now are we surviving, the ugly history and and then we just find ourselves now, in some senses, trying to survive ourselves, right? Because our own communities now want to tell us, you belong here and you don't belong here, and you know what? No, that's no way to be. So I'm here to really kind of celebrate all that we are, and the huge strides and how far that we've come, and and be thankful for everything that we have.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on. This is right. Isn't
Ladies,
it
it was
perfect?
fabulous. Shelby, it's so nice to talk
It was
to you.
so nice to talk with you too. Congratulations on your book. It's absolutely gorgeous.
I hope we're saying the same thing to you soon.
Yes,
Yeah,
we will
me
be.
too.
We'll do another one when your book is ready to go.
Yes.
That will be fun. All right. Our kids are like, "Where are you, Mom?" I know. Did you hear them? Did you see Quay just like walk by behind me? But we did it. Thank
We
you,
did it.
everybody, for
Thank you.
whoever's tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Good night. Have a
Good
great
night.
week. Bye.